Hey friends, I'm running kind of late for a haircut right now, but I'm currently testing the sound spaces which are coming out soon. So I'm going to start with an outdoor sample of the microphones. Let me know how they sound. But I will tell you with ANC on, you kind of hear some air coming through the microphones. So that's just something that we'll have to monitor going forward. But we're starting off with mics. So I'm going to cut away to some samples about the different modes. And then after the haircut, we'll talk more about this. So please hold.
Normal mode. Pass through.
Everything better where we are?
ANC on.
All right, so now that you guys heard some of those transparency modes and ANC and all that, let me give you my perspective of how this was running when I was using it. So from the ANC perspective, I would say that it's very solid, especially when you have your music on. You really can't hear your surroundings. It's when you kind of like turn your music off and you kind of like just like walking around and you want to block things out. That's when it gets a little bit more noticeable, especially with like cars passing. You can still hear those, so it's definitely not top notch ANC like a Sony or a Apple, but it's still very very serviceable with the music on. I think the biggest thing that I noticed that was uh, noticeable for the ANC was the wind. So it's a lot of wind going on in Boston right now, and it definitely made its way into my music, so it wasn't perfect on that front, but overall very solid. Then when we talked about transparency, I liked it a lot. It doesn't give you super hearing, like you don't know where things are coming from, but it is very natural sounding. So talking to baristas or talking to a friend that I met on the street, it was easy to not take these off. I didn't feel like I was talking too loud. The people I was talking to didn't sound like robots. So overall, the transparency mode is accurate. It sounds pretty natural, and I think it's because these mics sound relatively good. And again, you're hearing an indoor sample here, and you guys can tell me how the mics sound to you. But ANC transparency mode mics is kind of what we're feeling right now. So let's get to my studio, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how these feel and function in the long term.
So from an unboxing perspective, there's not a lot of flash and bang in the box. So what we have here is just really the core essentials of what you would need to get started. And that's going to be your headphones, your manuals, your standard charging cable USB-C, and a 3.5 jack so that you guys can plug into your laptop or analog music sources. So just really the core essentials. So as we talk about the headphones themselves, they're extremely light. They're like 260 grams. And for like comparison, that's on the lower end of the over-ear spectrum. So the Sony 1000 XM5s are like 150-ish grams. And then on the other side, you got like the AirPods Max, which are like 350 grams. So definitely on the lighter side, definitely won't weigh you down, especially for you people that commute a lot for work. It's not gonna be fatiguing. It's really good for people that are working too. I actually used this during a workout and I was able to get a pretty solid fit, and it wasn't really a big issue of like me feeling like it's stabbing into my head or really tight on the clamp. It does a really good job about having the right amount of clamp that will allow you to be secure without smashing your head into a ugly watermelon, which is nice. I like that it uses like soft touch plastic and that it's flexible enough to fit a lot of different heads. It's really also good is the padding. The padding here is a leatherette, so like an artificial leather, but it does have this nice like memory foam on it, and that extends into the headband. So it's really just a nice little like hover over your ears. Also, this leatherette is a really good for seal in terms of making sure that not too much comes in from the actual ear pads. Obviously things will come in through the microphones, but in terms of actual like protection against that, you pretty much covered. On the top, they do have a nice little soft, I want to say Alcantara, but I know it's not, but this like cloth setup that's just nice for in-hand hold. So pretty nice. But I was really impressed with the fit because, like I said, I use this for work. I use this for travel. I've also used it for workouts. For the workouts, I'm surprised that it was able to have such a nice seal, even through running, agility drills. I didn't really have any big issues, calisthenics, all that sort of stuff. I would say the only thing I didn't test it out with, because I just forgot to bring a lot of stuff. I didn't even bring a camera. I just forgot my jump rope, which I usually do. And I that's the only thing I would say, like maybe it would be stressed along that, because it's not the tightest clamp. It's very light. That's the reason why they're so comfortable. But maybe with jumping rope, you might have a little bit more of an issue. Actually, nah. I mean, obviously if I'm going a lot more intense, but there was no give on that one. So like this might actually work for jump roping too. So more active workouts, this should be fine. Again, the only thing that you'd say is a consideration for that workout is it's leather. So it's not like a cloth ear cup. It's not going to breathe as well. So for people that run hot or are running in hotter conditions, might be an issue for you for workouts, but for most people, I think this will be fine. As we talk about controls, they're pretty solid. I like how clicky the buttons are. They're just simple hold to on the volumes for playback controls, and then presses on different sides for control of your ANC, your power, your play pause, and then you could use the volume rocker with single clicks to do volume. So overall, very easy to learn, very easy to pick up, nothing transformative on the controls front, just very reliable and worked in, I think, yeah, I did it in rain too, worked in rain. Work. That's where I want to talk about these, because this was actually a dream to work with. The microphones, like we saw in the samples, definitely work better. Sorry, turn it off on accident. Definitely work better on indoors. If you want to go outside and do all this stuff, it'll work. Like if you're trying to do, mental health walk or just get some coffee, it'll be okay. It's just not gonna be the most clear. If you're trying to run a conference, I'd say like be indoors. It'll sound a lot better. It won't isolate as much outdoors, so the indoors it'll just sound better and give you a little bit more characteristic and a little bit more natural sound, because it won't be trying to zap out all the ambient noise around you. So definitely better for that. But the thing that was nice was multi-connect. It was very seamless, and they've also had multi-connect on a lot of their other headphones, but for some reason with these ones it was just very, very seamless. I didn't have to have any sort of confirmation. It didn't really get confused when I was using my phone versus my computer, so it's just super nice to be able to switch back and forth so fast and be able to like go like, oh, I'm listening to my music and then I get a call on Teams. It was just cool that I could just swap over real quick and not have to think about it. I could just answer the call, not have to worry about my music playing on the other side or things getting disconnected. Bluetooth connectivity and multi-connect was super, super solid. But overall, as I retrieved these again after I threw them, the thing that surprised me the most was battery. Battery is freaking wild on these. I haven't charged these in forever, like out of the box. I haven't even used the charging cable. I haven't plugged this in a single time, and it's been like 2 or 3 weeks. So I haven't tried to kill it. It has not died. And then I looked up the specs, and in ANC mode, you get 61 hours. And maybe it's just me not reviewing over-ear headphones in a while, but 61 hours with ANC is wild to me, because usually things die a lot faster. Like usually, like when I was rocking like Sony and Bowers and Wilkins back in the day, it was like 40 hours at max. And then if you used ANC, it would be lower than that. But now it's 61 hours on a sub $100 headphone. That's wild to me. And that's so good because I never had to worry about charging it. And then I looked at this more specs. If I didn't use ANC, I could use this for 123 hours, which is stupid. So you can literally go multiple weeks and not worry about charging and kind of let it die. Because another wild stat is even if this dies, plug it in for 10 minutes, you get 12 hours. You get 2 more days of listening from just plugging it in 10 minutes before your commute. Battery's getting wild in Soundpeats, man. I just like not having battery anxiety of things dying and me not having what I want at moment's notice. It's just nice that this is just here. It'll just be alive. Don't have to worry about it dying. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows, because there are a couple qualms here. And it's really going to be going as we move into music. But the thing that I did not like as much is that it's only SBC and AAC for high quality. So you don't have your LDACs, you don't have your aptX lossless. So if you have nicer music sources like Tidal or Amazon Music, and you use those CD quality recordings, you can't get the most out of your music because the codecs aren't there to support it. I mean, music still sounds really, really good on this, and we'll get into that more, but you just can't get the most out of your music if you use services like that. So just keep that in mind. But now it's a good transition to actually sit down and listen to some music. Okay, so we are going to be moving to sound, but just because it's a Soundpeats, I got to talk to you guys about the things that are not music related. And this is going to be related to their applications and the things that are there available to you, so you can really get the best out of your experience. And the first thing I want to talk about is game mode. So this is going to be your low latency mode that will allow you to make sure that the video and audio sync up well. Again, for music, this doesn't matter as much, but when you're talk about like videos and editing and gaming, especially for gaming, hence why it's called game mode, it's super important, because you don't want to make sure that you're not, you know, super out of sync for what's happening. You don't want to hear footsteps behind you, but then like not be able to react to them because you're already dead. So like, just that's why the reason why that latency is very important. It comes in at 65 milliseconds, and I will say that that's pretty good, because your AirPods Pro are probably like around 115 milliseconds or something like that. And a lot of, you know, classic headphones that are designed for music are kind of in that range of 100 to 115 milliseconds for latency. They obviously gotten better over the times. A lot have introduced their own sort of low latency mode. However, 65 milliseconds is very commendable, and it should get you past your needs for most games and for editing without having to redo things in post because things are out of sync. I will say that's not the best I've ever seen in the market. There's definitely some 30 and 35 millisecond earbuds that I've seen that do better, or like more gaming centric headsets and headphones that do better. However, these are not that. These are kind of more of a hybrid that are your all-rounders that can kind of do it all. They can do video, music, games. So 65 is super commendable and will bridge your need for all of those things. In the app, there's also plenty of stuff that you can do with the sound. Obviously, if you haven't seen my previous reviews in Soundpeats, there's a ton of different sound profiles that you can use, but I tend to live in classic mode just because it is a nice, fun, and punchy sound signature that I don't have to really mess with all that much. And then I also use adaptive. And again, if you want to see the full app, I'll put a link up here for a video where I've actually hit it, but I don't want to waste all you guys' time setting up every time I do a Soundpeats review. So the thing I will say is, for adaptive, I think everyone should do that. It's essentially just a process. It's like 2 minutes for you to listen to a bunch of tones and see what you can hear, and it will optimize a profile specifically for you. That's great because you don't really have to think about it. If you don't know how to use the sliders, again, they kind of got it for you. And from my experience with them, most other things from Soundpeats sound relatively well with that EQ, so I end up setting it up for all the headphones that I have from them. They all kind of behave a little bit different, so that's what we're going to talk about as we talk about music, but I do want you guys to take it with a grain of salt because of the fact that, again, these are my ears, this is what my ears are hearing and what they're tuned to. You guys, you know, might be younger. Maybe you guys can hear more tones than I can, so that optimization will be different for you, but I just want to give you guys a flavor of how they are different. It's not something that's just like some smoke and mirrors. Stuff is significantly different between classic and what they will spin up for you. So let's start off with the first song with Senpai. This was obviously a perfect track because it is a very dancey, vibey song, which the V signature shape of these earbuds or headphones are very apparent. So you get very lively bass and high emphasis in the voice. Like, the voices are very present and all around you, and the bass comes in and punches you nicely. So again, for a little bit more dancey vibe, a little bit more energy, this is perfect. However, as you do the adaptive, this is gonna bring in a little bit more of the mid. So it'll be more neutral sounding, a little bit more neutral tuned, and as a result, you get a little bit more relaxed. They'll recess the voices a little bit. It'll be a little bit more calm. It's more like a chill at home vibe. You know, sort of relax after work, which I liked. It was a little bit more mild. It wasn't so spicy as the classic. And then as we went to Snooze by SZA and Justin Bieber, this is where the voices just have a lot more characteristics to it. It's a lot more grandiose. There's a lot more echoey elements to it that give it that staying power. At parts of it, there's just this nice ethereal moments because their voices stick around a lot more and they're just a lot bigger. They just sound a lot bigger. So I think it sounds really nice. It's just produced more, that the production is there more. What was very interesting is when I moved this to adaptive, again, it's a lot more even tuning, but what made it sound really, really nice to me, it was the fact that it just felt like they were in the room with me. Like they came over, we were chilling, talking, and all of a sudden they just want to jam out. Like it sounded more realistic, like a more realistic acoustic rendition that was happening in front of me, rather than me hearing an acoustic production that was recorded in a studio and added elements to make it sound more grandiose. I like that, and I like the fact that it was chill, but I also liked the fact that I could hear their words. It was very enunciated, very separated in the way that they were speaking. I could hear all the lyrics and all their parts. I could hear those layers, so I liked the fact that I could hear a little bit more of that, and I wasn't so caught up in how grand their voices sounded. So, big difference. And then as we talk about the shade from Rex Orange County, again, there's just so much more gravity in that voice. It was just a lot more enveloping, and it just felt like his voice was all over my ears. So it was cool because it gives it that. But at some points, I think when the song was progressing, and this is like past many hours of listening. This is towards the end of my listening session. I started hearing some elements that were a little bit harsh, a little bit sibilant to me. And that's just because I've been listening to such aggressive things for so long. The adaptive EQ made it sound a lot more intimate, just like the Justin Bieber song, a little bit more neutral. And as a result, it was a little bit less fatiguing. I did not have to worry about those sharp elements to it, or just those really hard punches, because it was just more even. So I like the fact that I have that. And then the last song, which is kind of like, I should have not ended with this song, but it was very dramatic on Classic. Hanuman by Rodrigo y Gabriela just has a lot of strings because there's guitar group, and there's a lot of percussive elements because they hit the guitar to make some drums happen. Super dramatic, like I said. It's just very stark strings, very hard punches. It just hits you with every note and every percussive element. And as a result, because it was at the end of me listening to all this dramatic music for so long, it was just a little bit harsh. Like it was a little bit overwhelming by the time of life. I finished after hours of listening. So I did like it, but it was just like too much at that point. So when the next day, when I listened to the whole stuff again with a different EQ, it was just a lot more refreshing to hear it more neutralized. Like a lot of those elements come down a lot because that's just how the tuning was chosen by Soundpeats. Obviously, it's a lot less harsh. That means I could listen to it for hours. So like I could continue on their discography without worrying about being sibilant or being harsh or anything like that. Like I liked the fact that it was so relaxing and I didn't have to worry about my ears taking a beating. I think this is also, it's just good for analytical listening. With how technical their performances are and how their playing style is, it's nice to hear the strings, it's nice to hear the different layers, it's nice to hear that separation so things don't get muddy. Don't get me wrong, like going back, like even yesterday when I heard Classic, it was very, very nice when I wasn't at the end of my listening. If I started off with this, I probably would have had a better perception, but it is a lot more of an analytical listen, and as a result, while it is less harsh, you can listen to it for a long time, some parts are just a little bit thin, and there's some parts where I was just like, ooh, that's like a little bit emaciating. I wish that hit me a little bit harder, or like, ooh, those strings don't seem as depthy to them. And so there's just elements that you miss, like you don't miss like the actual like technical execution, but you just miss some of that power. And sometimes things just but they sounded emaciated, and as a result, like they're just leaving me wanting more. But again, because I have those two different EQs, it's just nice to be able to flop between those and find the right vibe for my listening style for that day. But anyway, there's plenty of that you can do in the app, so definitely check that out. For now, I will give you guys some samples of how this sounds classically. just to save some time on this video. But I will shoot a short, and I'll leave a link here when it's available, of how this sounds of my EQ versus classic, so you guys can see the difference. But for now, let's listen to those two tracks and see what you guys think about them. So as we wrap up, obviously I can recommend these. There's a lot of things happening here in a sub $100 package. I mean, these are running for like $62 on Amazon right now, so much less than that. And you're getting a lot of flagship features like multi-connect and amazing battery and fit. So there's not a lot to complain about these, and I think this is very low risk for you guys to try. I personally just love how long the freaking battery lasts. I don't have to have charging anxiety, and the sound is very, very solid at this price range. And with that Soundpeats app, you're going to be able to do a lot to make it tailored to what you need. The only thing I would say is just make sure you test out the ANC and make sure it's suitable for you. Otherwise, I think this is an easy pickup. So definitely check out the link below if you have any desire to buy this. And if you have any questions, leave the comments and I can see if I can shoot a short on it or just respond to your comment nicely. But definitely appreciate you guys checking out the video. If you could, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you normally do on a video that you like and love. And to my OGs, thank you guys so much for the engagement over the past couple months. I know I've been a little bit slow. I've just been going through a move. If you saw my room, it'd be disgusting, but we're almost done with moving in, so I should be able to get back to my video schedules and, you know, no more delays. But thank you guys for tuning in, and you guys really, really help my channel grow, whether I'm posting or not, and it's super appreciated by me. But anyways, as always, I appreciate you guys. Peace.